So tell everybody a little bit about, kind of how you got into this gig, where you started, and, kind of where you are now.
Yeah, so my background is in automotive.
Okay.
And video production.
Okay.
And then
so you fit right in here, right?
Yeah, perfect. It's a great setup, man. Great thing you're doing here.
Yeah.
But my real estate background, it comes from kind of an informal background. Mm-hmm. So when I was a child, I would be calling listings in the neighborhood. Right. Anytime I would drive by
as a kid
on my bike, yes.
Okay.
Anytime I would ride by, I would try to memorize the number.
Right.
And I would go home and call them. We had the phone on the wall.
Right. With the long cord.
Yeah. I'd dial the number. And they'd say, so-and-so real estate. I said, hey, that house on Rosewood. Yeah? How much do you want for it? Well, back then it was $45,000.
Right.
$60,000.
Right.
Is it 2 or 3 bedrooms? It's a 3-bedroom. Oh, wow. Okay. Son, can you have your mom call us? Or your dad? Oh, they don't speak Spanish. They don't speak English. They say, oh, okay. And then they would give me all the information.
Right.
That was twofold.
Yeah.
One, because I wanted to know a lot about the neighborhood. I wanted to know every house that was for sale. I wanted to know how much, how many bedrooms it was, all that stuff. But also, I wanted to know if it had a swimming pool and if it was vacant.
So okay. So you were calling listings to try to figure out what the property had, so you could go take advantage and go swimming or hang out and do whatever. Yes. If nobody's living there, then
so we did that a couple of times. We went swimming at vacant. That's scary when I think about it.
Yeah.
Some kid swimming at my listing. That's vacant. Very scary.
Right.
But we did it.
Yeah. Well, we did a lot of things as kids nowadays.
We cleaned the pool too.
Yeah.
We also cleaned the pool.
Okay, so you're responsible vagrant.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. Okay, I got you.
Responsible, yeah. We didn't cause any property damage. We actually left it better than we found it.
Right.
But we did get caught once, and they were just horrified. It was somebody coming to see the house.
Right.
And they thought, are you the kids that live here? No. But that's kind of my background there.
So that's where you first got the taste for properties and real estate was hopping in swimming pools of expired or empty listings, right?
Empty listings, and checking out the whole neighborhood, trying to find out, you know what. And I would come back and tell my mom, there's a 3-bedroom house, two streets down, and it's this much. And she would say, no, we're fine. I knew we weren't fine because it was a 2-bedroom. Yeah. And at one point we had 9 people at my house. Wow. 9 people.
So sometimes you just need to get out the house just to get away from everybody.
That's right. Yeah. I'd ride my bike for miles.
Right. Just not to be crammed in there with the rest of the family. Right.
My sibling and my cousins and everything. But you know what? It was the funnest time ever. Yeah. Growing up in that situation, it was so fun. But
so did your parents grow up around here too?
That's another real estate story there. My mom and dad, when they got married, they moved to the United States from Mexico, and my grandfather gave my mom 2 properties over there and said, you can do whatever you want. When you guys come back, you can live here, you can sell them. She wound up selling them. They moved and they rented a little apartment. The way she describes it is that it was so bad that she had to nail a rug down on the floor for 2 reasons. One, so that nobody would step in the hole that was in the floor.
Right.
And number 2, so the rats wouldn't have a place to come into the house.
Oh, that was keeping the vermin out too.
It was so bad.
Wow. Okay.
And so she nailed this area rug to the floor. But anyway, the complex was in such bad condition, but they were just trying to survive. My dad was working at restaurants and liquor stores and stuff like that. That's kind of what he did. And my mom was stay-at-home at that time. I think she just had my sister. And the apartments were so bad, and they were so unhappy here. Just the cultural shock and the financial shock, and then just living in those conditions. They weren't used to it.
Right, different world.
Different world.
For sure.
And so they were contemplating a move out back to Mexico, but a neighbor, an older lady, told my mom, hey, there's rumors that they're building a parking lot here and an expansion for the hospital next door. You should stay because they're going to buy us out. They're going to buy the leases out. And that's what they did. A couple months later, they gave her $2,500 to buy the lease out, and then I think it was $500 to move. And just to move her furniture and that.
Right.
And she didn't have very much. And so what did she do with the $3,000? She went and contacted a real estate agent, and they bought a house. She bought a house without my father's permission or knowledge.
Right.
And she went, and that's the type of woman she is. She just does it.
Yeah.
She doesn't ask permission.
No, she doesn't need any, right?
Yeah, she doesn't need permission.
Right.
And plus, he would say no. He would probably have said, no, we're going back to Mexico.
It's, what do they say? It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's the code she lives by.
Right.
And so she went, and about the 5th house that she saw, she said, this is it. Walking distance from the school and the grocery stores. There was a bus route nearby. She put the money down payment. And back then, Mike, she said there was only 2 papers that you would sign. One was the promissory note, and one was the deed.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, because everybody hadn't been sued 1,000 times over at that point, right?
Right. So it was a 10,
simpler
15-minute process.
Yeah.
And she went back with the keys, showed my dad, and he didn't freak out.
Yeah.
It was strange. He just
Now, were you born at
accepted
the time, or?
Not yet.
Okay, not yet.
At that time, a couple years later is when I was born. I was born and raised in that house. My mom still owns that house. She paid it off, I don't know, 30, 40 years
Oh, really?
ago.
She still has it today?
She still has it. Yeah.
No way,
Yeah.
really? And so is she, like, does she rent it out, or?
No, she does have a little conversion in the garage that she rents out, but that area where she's at, it's a little triangle in San Antonio. It's called the Deco District. And that Deco District is starting to gentrify. And so they're coming in to that little triangle, and they're on each side of the triangle buying up those houses that back then were 32,000, and now they're 450,000.
Wow.
500,000. They're little 2-bedroom houses.
Pretty good investment, right?
Yeah, she doesn't want to sell. She won't sell.
You don't think so?
No.
Even if they keep pushing and pushing in?
If they gave her 500,000,
So she's living there.
She lives there.
Okay,
now.
okay.
If they gave her 500,000 or something like that,
Right.
I think she'd take it, move up to Dallas.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Be closer to the grandkids.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like my background in real estate. Always been interested in it.
So yeah, what ultimately like pushed you? So what did you do kind of leading up to it, and then what ultimately pushed you to go into real estate?
Right. So the at some point I felt like I had topped out as far as my salary, my the money I was making in the body shop business. I had ran a couple of shops down south in San Antonio, and I managed those 2 shops, and I was a service advisor for a collision center, and that position, you can only make so much,
Right.
and that's it, and that just wasn't enough for me,
Right.
With a growing family and that. I did get into video production, which was great. I learned a lot, but still not enough for me. With now 4 kids, back then just planning, to have a family just wasn't enough. My wife's a teacher as well, and so that really caused me to look at, basically take an inventory of giftings and talents and see where it could land me.
Right.
And the epiphany came one day when I was thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll sell something. Maybe I'll be the guy that sells, maybe a furniture store. Maybe I'll sell furniture. Maybe I'll sell cars. And I did that for a while.
Well, that's actually not a bad thing. I mean, when you're selling stuff prior to moving into something like selling real estate, you kind of, what are they, like you earn your chops a little bit, like you practice your spiel, you work on what you say to people, how you say things. So having experience selling other things certainly prepares you for getting into this, right?
Absolutely. Selling things to other people really helps you focus on what to say and what not to say. You said it right. Because you don't tell a client, you say, do you think you can afford this? No. You assume they can afford anything that they're looking at.
For sure.
And so that type of respect that I learned for the client is what I took into real estate. And so using that, my service advising experience,
because you deal with clients on a day-to-day basis,
with
and
clients,
customers every day. Yeah.
Dealing in the body shop business, what I did, I was kind of for lack of a better term, kind of a liaison between the insurance and the shop.
Okay.
And sometimes it felt like you were a liaison within the shop between the insurance and the actual body shop guy. The insurance would say, we're paying this much, and body shop guy said, well, that's not enough. And then you're in the middle. looking like the bad guy.
You got to be the middleman. You're the messenger, and they're trying to kill you.
The messenger, yeah, and it's full of alpha males.
Yeah,
the whole place is full of alpha males.
For sure.
I mean, they're big guys. They don't even have to be big. They're just aggressive.
Yeah.
And dealing with that just teaches you just a range of ways to deal with different people.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, because you're dealing with somebody on one side who's telling you how it's going to be, and then you have to deal with the customer on the other side to try to explain that information to them in a digestible manner, right? So they can take it all in, fully understand what you're saying, and they may not always agree with you, obviously, or agree with whatever they're paying, whatever. So then you have to balance out how to make them at least feel comfortable with what you're charging, or explain it to them well enough to where they understand it, so they feel like they're not getting ripped off, or whatever the case may be. And especially, I think cars is a unique situation, not too dissimilar to real estate, simply because you are explaining stuff to somebody that they don't typically deal with and understand.
Absolutely.
Right? So
absolutely.
a car, I'm not a car person. My car's I think 15, 20 years old. Like I'm not that in. I know you're a big time car guy.
Yeah.
But for me, walking into a body shop or a dealership or a repair shop or whatever, I'm not going to have a full breadth of knowledge as to what to expect and what I think they should say or what the cost should be. So a lot of what I decide when I deal with people is like, how do I feel about, do I trust this human? Like this individual that I'm dealing with, they're giving me information. Do I feel comfortable and do I trust them?
Right.
Because I have no idea what they're talking about, right?
Exactly.
And it's very similar in real estate, because unless you buy and sell houses on a yearly basis, which most average people don't, then this is a whole new game for you, and this is something that's like Egyptian hieroglyphics that someone has to translate for you, right?
Even if you bought a house a year ago, and you're buying again or selling again, it's such a different market from 2 years ago. I remember 2.5 years ago, whenever we got locked down and quarantined, I didn't receive a phone call for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was ready to have a record month or quarter.
Right.
I had 5 listings about to go live. One was live, 4 about to go live, and they all hit the brakes. Mm-hmm. They all paused. They all said, wait, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it was a scary time, but dealing with that situation really formed me and molded me to, even 2 years ago, who I am today, because going back in the uncertainties of what that was going to bring, you have to be prepared. And so preparing yourself as a realtor is important, but also preparing your buyer and saying, hey, 7-8 years ago, sellers used to pay closing costs for buyers.
All the time.
All the time.
It's a regular thing.
Now, buyers are paying closing costs for sellers.
Yes.
And that is a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Especially when they're going back to their job site and they're celebrating, hey, we got the house, we've got it under contract. Oh, great. Yeah, we had to bring $20,000, $30,000 more to closing, and the coworker saying,
I didn't have to do that.
I didn't do that.
Yeah.
When I bought, they paid my closing costs.
Yep.
Matter of fact, I had a zero. Why don't you call my loan officer that I used to work with and my realtor? Now they're pissed.
Yeah.
They're thinking, oh man, I got royally screwed. But if they've been out there and you've educated them, and for lack of a better term, but they've got experience. They wrote 3 or 4 or 14 offers.
Yeah.
And now they feel like they can do your job, right? That's what you want them to feel like.
Well, that's trust, right?
Yeah.
They trust you, and that's what I was saying about the car dealers or the repair shop or whatever. Is this kind of the same idea? It's like I have to have trust with that person or feel like I can trust them. And when that conversation happens, if you've worked with this client or you've explained everything to them thoroughly and you've gone through the entire process and they understand exactly what to expect, then when they go have that conversation with the coworker, it'll probably still go the same way, and coworker says, well, this is what I did, you should call my person. But they walk away from that going, well, I understand that because Albert explained to me how it used to be, and now it's like this. So yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. But they had the trust in you, and they feel comfortable with the information that you've given them. Absolutely. So therefore, they're not searching for other answers somewhere else because they feel like you've given them the right information. Right.
When you've got a little bit of background, a little bit of information, it's like my mechanics. I have 2 mechanics, different parts of the city, but one of them told me, "You're one of my best clients." I said, "How?" He says, because if I tell you it's going to be $1,000 for this, you just say okay and you pay it. You don't fight me on it.
Right.
And it's not about haggling. It's that I know that he's telling me the truth.
Yeah.
He's telling me, hey, I've got to, yes, the seal on that transmission and engine is, $35, but I've got to pull the engine.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's $800. That's $1,000. I get it.
Yeah.
The labor's there. I had just the other day, I have a classic car, and I was removing a bolt. Not to bore you, but it was a spindle on the wheel, and I could not remove that bolt. So much so, it took me 5 hours to try to remove that. Finally, I removed the whole unit. I took it to a new mechanic because I just moved, and he removed it, 45 seconds,
right,
a minute.
Yeah.
And I thought, he just saved me 5 hours.
Yeah.
Well, he charged me a 1 hour labor.
Yeah.
And that was $100.
Well, but you didn't pay for the 20 years of experience that he had prior to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as realtors, we don't get paid for what we do.
Right.
We get paid for what we might have to do and the experience that backs that up.
Well, and what you know and what you've gone through, and so
Absolutely.
that protects clients against possibilities of things happening and what could occur. And I think a hard thing is, I think it's a human problem kind of, is that a lot of people deal in today. They deal in right now in any transaction. This is what, you go to the car mechanic and he wants to charge you $500 more than it should be. And as a customer, as a client, you're kind of like, I feel like I might be getting taken advantage of here. But I don't want to argue too much or want to fight too much. But I do know that the next time I have this problem, I'm not coming back here.
Right.
Right? Because I think most people, listen, some people are going to stand there at the counter and they're going to argue, they're going to haggle, and they're going to do. But I think a lot of people just like, I'm not going to mess with this. I feel like I got taken advantage of. So lesson learned, right? The fool me once, shame on me, whatever. Or shame on you is right. But when you have another issue that comes up with your car, you're not going to go back to that place again. And so those types of places and those types of businesses tend to, eventually, that catches up with them. They run out.
Right.
And it's the same thing in our world where, if everything is focused on this one transaction, you're just like, well, I'm not going to tell them this because I don't want to scare them away from this house. Or I'm not going to, as a lender, I'm not going to talk too much about the rate because I don't want them to be, shopping around doing whatever. Well, if you don't explain everything thoroughly and you don't put it all out there, well, maybe you make a little bit less, or maybe the transaction takes a little bit longer, or whatever the case may be on whatever transaction you're doing. But the idea is that it's not just about the one, it's about the future transactions that come after that.
Absolutely.
It's about the referrals. It's about treating someone well so that way they tell their friends and their family and everybody else. And, even I think I hear stories all the time about agents that will go to the for sale by owners, right? And try to pick up those listings and help them out. But, a lot of times they don't want to involve the agents because of the commission and everything else. Well, I know multiple agents that have gone in and said, hey, look, I know that you don't want to have an agent, but here's a few things you might want to keep in mind because I just want to help you out. You know what I mean? And they didn't sell that house, but they got the brother and the cousin and the uncle and everybody else that came after because they set aside their desire for a commission and a paycheck right then to just be a good human being and help somebody out, and that leads to future business.
Right. Yeah, I had one situation like that kind of spider-webbed into 5 different transactions. The agent that was helping them or trying to help them really had no business in real estate.
Right.
And that person referred me and said, and she admitted, like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? And I said, sure, what's the case? And she was listing a house and she just could not make the numbers right. She just couldn't figure it out. She couldn't figure out the transaction. I told her, yeah, I can help you. And she said, okay, we'll go 50-50 on this one. I said, fantastic, we'll do it. Helped her, we got it done. And that person referred me to a friend from California. They bought, sold, and I'm selling, they bought 2 other investment properties. I'm listing their property and they're buying brand new.
Oh, wow.
So it's 5 transactions with one person based on a discounted listing that I was helping somebody with.
Right.
Wasn't even my listing at the beginning. It was just somebody that needed help.
In over their head a little bit.
Right.
Just helped out, yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to make $1,500 on this. At the time, it was like $1,500 or $2,000. Right. I'm going to do it when prices were, you can find a decent house for $180,000.
All right.
And I said, I'm going to help them out. And I did. And look what it came to. I mean, I probably did, I don't know, close to $2 million with that one client.
So you mentioned right there about, when you could get a house for $180,000. What, being out there every day, I know you do a lot of listings. That's kind of your bread and butter, and you'll mix in the occasional buyer. But from your point of view, like, where you see the market at today, obviously the questions always come up all the time. Is this going to settle out? Is it going to, or how home price is going to go down? Is it going to cool off? All that kind of stuff. So what are you seeing out there, like on a day-to-day basis, that indicates to you where things are headed?
Okay, so I see a lot of irresponsibility.
Okay.
And so why? Because like you said, 90% of my business is listings, but I do have a couple buyers right now. And what I've seen is I walk into these listings that are just horrible. I've got a young guy, Jordan, and he is looking at these houses, and I'm telling him, Jordan, I'm gonna treat this as if you were my cousin or my brother or something. Right. I'm not going to tell you this is a bad house, run, but I'm going to tell you, look at this. Are you sure you want a house with foundation problems? And now he's pretty much a foundation expert because he walks in and he says, oh my gosh, this whole corner needs maybe 10 piers on this side of the house. Right. And so he understands the process now. But I hear other agents when I'm in there and say, oh, it's not that bad. I mean, they're downplaying the foundation, which in our area sometimes can be severe.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a house where you can visibly see the entire house going down. Mm-hmm. As you walked in, half of the house was going downhill. I mean, visibly.
Right.
And I heard an agent saying, well, as long as they stabilize it. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Right. If you put a ball down in the middle of the house, it's going to roll that way for the next 30, 40 years.
Right.
That's not
a good thing.
It's not going to go away.
Right.
I mean, this thing has horrible, horrible foundation damage. You must repair it. I mean, there's no doubt. Well, once we get in the contract, we can do. Sure, but you're starting off on a really bad, no pun intended, really bad foundation.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of irresponsibility out there, and that, Mike, is going to turn into something.
Yeah.
When these buyers are in those houses and they're like, I made a bad deal. It's not worth paying the next mortgage payment that I'm struggling with.
Right.
And they're going to let those houses go.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I think we still have an inventory problem, and in Texas, we still will have an inventory problem, no matter what.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like 2008, I don't believe, but I believe it's going to be more of a rolling type of foreclosure deal, where you have certain situations that start foreclosing, and for lack of a better term, a kind of a domino effect, but not as
dramatic or
not
severe.
As dramatic as 08, 09, but it's just going to be rolling.
Right.
08, 09, I remember in 09 driving by in the Red Oak, Lancaster area, and seeing, Texas has all these stereotypes, the horses and stuff.
Right.
Well, that area does have the horses, the cowboys drive.
It's stereotypes for a reason. Yeah.
Yes.
We got it.
They're down the street on the horses and stuff. And so one of those areas, and a new subdivision that was started in 07, 06, 07, and it's called Bear Creek. And I saw it, and there was maybe room for maybe 200 houses, and there was only 8 or 9 houses built on it.
Right.
And there was literal tumbleweeds going down the street.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this is scary.
Yeah.
They had stopped production, and you go back now and it's fully packed. They're on like phase 3 or phase 4 now, and they're building another 150, 80 houses. I mean, it's tremendous growth, but it's not enough growth.
Well, we have no lack of land, right?
No lack of land.
That's not the issue. We just have lack of actual homes, and builders, need time and to get caught up. Because the other issue that, I'm seeing at least a little bit is, you have a lot of private capital coming into the real estate market. I think I read something the other day. It's something like somewhere between 20 and 30%.
I read the same thing.
Where
it used to be 3%, now it's 30%.
Right, and these private capital groups are coming in, and this is why I feel like a lot of the prices are really starting to push up, because they are offering straight cash offers, sight unseen, 10 grand, $15,000, $20,000 over listing price, and then your average homeowner wants to come in and compete with that. And every time they try to push it, okay, well, we can do an extra 15 grand, or we can do an extra 20 grand. Well, then the private equity company says, well, we'll do 30. We'll do whatever we have to do to get it, because a couple things they understand. I really feel like, I think we're moving towards a direction of trying to commoditize housing, where it becomes no different than oil or pork bellies or whatever, where a select group of companies or individuals or whatever you want to call it own a good chunk of real estate in certain areas, and it flows up and down just depending on their whims, on the supply and demand of it, because people are going to have a place to live. You can't not live somewhere. And if you're priced out of purchasing something, then your only option is to rent. And if you're priced out of purchasing, then you don't have a lot of bargaining power when it comes to rent, because rents are going to continue to drive up as the values continue to go up. And you're going to see more and more where the average Joe, the first-time home buyer, even the step up to second level 2 is going to start to get more and more priced out, because those 20-30% of homes that are being purchased, they don't come back on the market. They're staying off. So the only thing that we can do is have builders catch up. Well, if builders are paying higher for steel, if they're paying higher for transportation, if they're paying higher for labor and all of that, then the $200,000 house is like a unicorn. It's going away. Or I should say the $200,000 new build is going away, because there's no margin, there's no profit.
Right, and so that's gone. I mean, outskirts maybe 280 in the, outskirts an hour and a half away from Dallas.
Right.
But 350 is kind of the norm now.
That's the starting new build price. That's the base model with nothing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, base model before the 20, 30,000 upgrades, you know. And it's still a great option, but yeah, you're right. All the prices are catching up to the builders, which are transferring it to the buyers. It's something that we've never seen. I think my personal opinion is that we are going to level out a bit. We're not going to see the exponential growth that we've been seeing. We're still going to see growth.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing, is what you were talking about earlier about the 2008, 2009 deal, where prices fell off the map, which, by the way, in Texas, we didn't really feel it that much. We felt it in other states because their lending laws were a little bit looser than ours are here. Like in California, people use their house like a credit card, where it would go up 10 to 20%, and they just refinance and take money out every year. But here we have laws that don't allow that, necessarily. But the issue is that, with the shortage of housing and the lack of people being able to, really afford it, you have a tighter and tighter market. I don't see a world where housing prices plummet. What I see, and what I agree with you, is that they will plateau. We can't have 20%, price increase growth every year. I mean, which is what it's been for like the last 2 years.
It's wild.
You can't do that forever. There's no way. So at some point, it's got to plane out.
Right. I stopped tracking it. I just read your emails, and now I know. But I used to track it, and I remember during the fall there of because there was a lag when the lockdowns happened here in Texas, and I saw a 22% decrease.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what in the world? What's going to happen? And started panicking a little bit, and then I thought, well, I'm always going to be relevant. If they're selling or they're always going to be selling.
Buy and sell homes. It's not going to stop.
It's not going to stop. So I'm always going to be relevant. I'm calm. Okay, great. But when it went back up, it actually got scarier. When the prices started getting so high that I have people that call me and say, I want a $1,600 payment. Ooh, that's difficult.
Yeah. Do you have $200,000 to pay down? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So that's kind of the scary part of the market. But also right now, the flip side is sellers are doing really well.
Sure.
Sellers are, especially those that are moving. A lot of my business is from my online presence. So when they call me, it's an inbound call. They're calling me. Saying, Albert, we want to sell our house. We're moving to Chicago. We're moving to wherever.
Right.
And they're getting a lot of equity out of their house now moving to a situation where it may be not as aggressive as DFW.
Right.
Sometimes it is. I had a customer moving to California, close to Los Angeles, being in the military. They moved over there. And so, yes, that's rough. But most of them, they're going and they're in a fantastic position.
Yeah.
Or when they're stepping up, maybe not in size, but they're stepping up in quality. For instance, they have a 2,300 square foot home in this area of town that they really don't love. They really don't love the school district, XYZ. And they're selling and buying maybe a house that's $100,000 more, nicer, newer, better school district. But their quality of life is going up, and they're happier, and they've got some money in their pocket to maybe pay down consumer debts.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Well, having that extra equity, I mean, it's great for sellers because they can do so many things with it. And it's, it truly is it's one of the only accessible paths to wealth that a lot of people, currently can get because, purchasing a home and having equity and building that over time can put you and set you up for future gains, because now you can buy a bigger home, or you can have more cash down the road and downsize to help you retire, and and all those kind of factors. The hard part is that that American dream that we've had for forever is starting to be very selective on who has access to it.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the part that is most concerning for me, is because these days we lease everything, right? Most people lease their car. Your phone. You really don't own your phone because you buy it for $600 from AT&T or Apple, but really you're paying $30 a month, and then by the time you're paid off, it's 2 years, your battery starts to die, and you gotta get a new phone.
Right.
They
worked in those glitches.
That's right.
Yeah.
We don't own our media. We don't own music. We don't own movies. We pay for Netflix. We pay for Spotify. We don't own anything.
Right.
So it's large companies getting a nice little drip from you that on a monthly basis, we just want your monthly subscription.
Right.
Pay us your monthly money. Pay us your monthly lease payment. Pay us your monthly subscription fee. Pay us your monthly rent. That's where we're kind of starting to head to. And if you're a younger person that, especially after COVID is maybe the job opportunities aren't as good as they used to be. You're in a gig economy now where, you don't have a steady paycheck. You're driving Uber, you're delivering DoorDash, you're doing all these things. Maybe you have your own business, which I do think is kind of a offshoot positive thing of all this, is that people are getting a little bit more of, well, I don't need to go work for, Johnson & Johnson. I can, start my own thing, or I can create my own business and be an entrepreneur.
Speaking of the gig business, the Uber drivers, Lyft, all those things, a lot of people almost downplay that as like second class.
Yeah.
And for me, it's hustlers. They're getting out there and hustling and doing what they have to do with the time given to them. So maybe they have their 9 to 5 and they work and they do well. They're working for somebody else, but then they have an extra 2 hours before they have to pick up their kid or whatever, their kids at soccer practice, whatever the case may be, or after they're in bed and they're going out working an hour or two. I mean, that's phenomenal when you can go out, make a few bucks, come back, and instead of watching, whatever, like we are, the Office for the 10th time, the entire series. They're out there working and making some money. I don't look down upon it. I think people should see that as an honorable thing, that they're going out there and hustling. But I think they wouldn't have done it if they wouldn't have been pressured.
Well, that's the problem. It's not that it's good or bad, because anything's what you make it, but it's that they have to.
Yes,
right? Because
they have to.
When your parents were growing up, and my parents were growing up in the 50s and 60s, you could have a one-income household and live a pretty good life, right? Dad would go to work, and I know nowadays dad and mom work, and but at that time, predominantly men worked out of the house and women stayed home, and so at that point, whatever salary he's working at the factory or wherever they're, at the office or whatever, that was enough to pay the mortgage, to pay for the cars, to handle everything, and mom didn't have to work.
Absolutely.
Well, now with the rising costs of everything and wages kind of staying, with you factor in inflation where wages really haven't gone up, and actually they've kind of gone down a little bit, it's not possible to do that anymore.
Right.
Now you have to have the gig deal. You have to have that side hustle to make that money, because otherwise you can't pay your rent, you can't pay your food, because, unless, and I mean, even when you tack on college expenses too, because we've been told, for the last 30 years, we have to go to college. You got to go to college to get your degree, which, has a lot of valuable benefits to it. But at the same time, when you walk out of it with $150,000 worth of debt and you're making 30 grand a year in your first job,
right.
How does the math on that work? It's really, really tough. And that's why even more so, when we talk about like what we do, what you and I do with real estate and what I do with lending, you have to find something that you can determine your own destiny, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what real estate is for me more than anything else, is you make and do as much as you want, right?
Right.
And having that freedom and ability to do that is, that's why so many people have flocked to real estate for the last couple of years, because, there's been a frenzy for it and people are in and out. But it has created a job to where if you want to work hard and you want to get after it and you want to be smart about it and be efficient with your time and figure out the best methods to do it, you can have a ton of success.
And there's the key, is figuring out how.
Right.
Because everybody has the desire.
Right.
But nobody knows how.
Right.
And there's other people that are doing it right around you, but they don't tell you how.
Right.
And so I think I feel the saddest or the most feared for those new agents, or maybe agents that have been in the business 1 or 2 years, or brand new starting in. I think they got caught kind of in the FOMO of real estate, thinking, wow, this is great, let's get in here.
Right. And so one house you make $6,000 or $8,000.
And they got in the most difficult time,
Yeah.
and they're being pressured and they don't have enough money to pay their mortgage.
Right.
It's a scary time for them. But and anytime I I deal with new agents or I talk to new agents, I try to coach them a little bit.
Right.
Especially if they're on the other side of the transaction.
Right.
Try to coach them, try to help them be responsible without me being irresponsible to my client, just giving them tips, not telling them something to do on the transaction,
Right.
just asking the right questions.
So I think a lot of new agents, when they get into the business, I see it because I talk to new agents a lot, where they spend a lot of time in classes, right? Well, I got to go learn how to write the contract correctly. I got to go learn about this amendment. I got to go, learn about this new law that was passed and how to adjust it. And so they spend a lot of time in classrooms. They spend a lot of time in offices. Is that where business is cultivated?
No, there's actually a gentleman. He's very, very successful. And he was, I think it was his 3rd year in real estate when he hit the brokerage that I was with.
Yeah.
And I would see him in the office. I usually go to the office like twice a week.
Yeah.
And I would see him in there every time I'm in there, and he's just there. And I told him, "What are you doing? What are you working on?" "Oh man, I'm trying to drum up these leads and this and that." And he does jujitsu just like I do.
Yeah.
And I said, I gave him a quick tip. I said, "Look, your business is at jujitsu.
Yes.
Go do jujitsu.
Yes.
Go be the realtor there at their gym, at your gym. Focus on building relationships in jujitsu, and your business will grow."
Yes.
Any social circle, and this is what I tell new agents, any social circle that you have, plug into them.
Yeah.
That young man, that guy, he is a tremendous top producer. And now, but then he was struggling.
Yeah.
He was struggling. But it's like the lights went off, then you never saw him in the office again, unless he had to make a copy or something. But he was hustling out there and making deal after deal, doing super good.
Yeah.
And even now, he's practicing those things. It's just kind of, you have to unlock something for somebody.
Yeah.
You don't take credit for it. You didn't do it.
Yeah.
You just unlock something, an idea, and they run with it. That's what I try to do with new agents. It's like, your business is not in the office with other agents necessarily.
Well, and a lot of people that know you look and see what you do because you're into jiu-jitsu, you're into classic cars, you're very involved in your church. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that you spend a lot of your time doing, and then you tell somebody, "Well, what do you do?" "Well, I'm a realtor." And they're like, What do you mean? Like, you're always here at the classic car thing. Right. You're always rolling with everybody in class, a jiu-jitsu class, and you're at every function for church. So when do you find the time to do that? And what you're saying is that those activities that you're doing and that you're spending time in is work. Like, you are working.
Absolutely. Somebody asked me, "Hey, what time are you headed to the office tomorrow? I need to call you. Are you working tomorrow? I know it's Good Friday."
Right.
I'm like, I work all the time and I work never.
Yeah. When my phone rings, I work. When it doesn't, I don't.
Right. And so the scariest time is when we're on vacation and we have a rule, I put my phone in the safe.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm going to answer that phone call. I put it in the safe, I lock it up, and at 5 p.m. or whatever time we come back, I get to open it, and I have 30 minutes to update everybody, right? And then put it back in there and do the same thing the next day.
Yeah.
And it's because I enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
It's not like it's pressure that I need to do this on vacation. Oh, how sad. Yeah. No, I like to do it, but I have to, if I'm on vacation, I need to put it up.
Yeah.
And so, and that's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
I think the most business I get is when I'm on vacation.
Hey, that's what the adage is, right? In the business is if you're slow and you need to get busy, go on vacation.
Right.
That's all you got to do is go on a trip.
So to new agents, I would say, I would say this to new agents, identify your social circles, tap into them, not to make business transactions, but to build relationships. And in those relationship building is where the business happens.
Right.
I don't go to church and say, oh, you
want to buy a house?
God bless you. You want to sell a house? You want to sell your house? You want to leave our church, sell a house?
Yeah.
No, I don't do that. I just help people. They have a question, I'll answer it.
Yeah.
And then they send me business.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it is.
Yeah.
At jiu-jitsu, I remember I got a call. It was we had a bulletin board, and somebody, another business owner told me, hey, you should put your card up there. And so I said, what, really? Everybody knows I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
No, you should put it up there. And I put it up there, pinned it. And like 3 days later, I get a call. It says, oh yeah, my son referred me to you. And I had no idea who they were talking about.
Yeah.
And I only knew the son by the last name.
Right.
And I had no clue. And we got further and further into the transaction till I finally figured out who it was. And it was because of that card.
Well, I think that's a thing so there's two parts. There is hey, get into your social circles, get into the things that you're passionate about, right? You're passionate about classic cars, you're passionate about jiu-jitsu, you're passionate about your church life. Get into those things, because when people see that passion that you have for that and who you are in that world, that goes a long way in developing trust for somebody who wants to have you help buy or sell their home.
Absolutely.
But the second piece to that, which is, kind of what we're doing right now, is you have to tell people what you do in one way or another, right? It doesn't mean you have to hand out your business cards and go, want to sell your house, want to sell your house, want to sell your house. But it does mean that you have to, whether it's wearing a shirt that has your brokerage on it, or whether it's producing content for social media on a regular basis related to real estate, not asking for people to buy or sell their homes, but just, hey, this is a house I listed today. This is, some of the features of it, that kind of stuff. Right. But you have to make sure that people know what you do, because if you don't at least spend a little bit of time pinning your card up, on the church bulletin, or posting a picture of your newest listing online or whatever, then a lot of your friends and family, because again, they don't, I tell my kids this all the time. It sounds kind of callous, I guess, but I do believe it to some extent, in that people aren't thinking about you, okay? They're thinking about themselves.
Right.
Like, they're thinking about what they have to make for dinner tonight, what happened at their job today or whatever. They're not thinking about you, okay? You're thinking about you, and me and your mom are thinking about you, but nobody else is, okay? So don't worry about all the, I do it, and just don't worry about all the noise around you, because, the embarrassment or whatever you think you're gonna do, people aren't concerned about you. But it applies in the same way to business, because people are thinking about themselves and their daily lives and what they have to go through. And for you and me, in order for us to penetrate that world, we got to show up every once in a while.
Right.
We got to show up on their Facebook feed. We got to show up at their church function. We got to show up to lunch. We got to show up and put our face in front of them, because if we don't, then when the moment comes that they are ready to buy or sell or do whatever they need to do, they're not going to think of you. They're going to think of whoever does a better job at that than you.
Right.
Right?
Mike, my social circles had all given fruit as far as they've all produced sales.
Yeah.
And I wanted to grow that more and more, but the one thing that I couldn't tap into was church, because you're at church to do church.
Right.
You're not there to promote real estate. You're not doing. But I thought in the back of my head, why has nobody bought or sold houses with me at church, and it had been years.
Yeah.
Like, why? And one day, it all unfolded, it all unlocked. What happened was a guy from my church that was also into jiu-jitsu invited me over to his house, and we practiced right in his garage. And when I looked at his house, I said, man, do you know how much your house is worth? It was literally conversation.
Sure.
I wasn't trying to sell him or anything. He was like, I don't know. And he gave me a number. I said, yeah, you're about $100,000 off. He was like, no way. I was like, yes, dude. Yes, absolutely. He's like, well, I'm never going to sell. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. I said, but if anybody, around you, just let them know that I'm here to sell their house. Well, the neighbor from across the street came over, and we talked for a minute. We didn't even talk real estate. He added me on Facebook, and we were friends there. We laughed at each other's jokes or comments or whatever. Then a few months later, he tells me, hey, I want to sell my house. Okay, great. So I sell his house, and then my friend, the original guy, he's like, guess what? We're moving. I sell both houses in that same block. I wound up selling 4 houses in that neighborhood from that transaction. But what happened was the first gentleman, his wife, since they went to my church, they were, I walked on water all of a sudden because we got, 7 offers.
Right.
And the first,
you're amazing.
In
You're
the
the
first
best.
10 hours, I'm the best realtor ever.
Yeah.
I'm the only one that does this.
Yeah.
No, a monkey can do it, right? Or a monkey can do it. But no, not really. No. It takes somebody skilled to do it right.
Right.
And so she started, saying how great I was on social media. Well, of course, all those people that were from my church started seeing that and realizing the correlation. Oh, okay. Oh, this guy does real estate too. They just hadn't realized it.
Yeah.
And the floodgates opened there.
Yeah.
And I just started selling a lot through there.
Yeah.
And again, you don't go to those things for that
With the
reason.
intent. No, that's not what it is.
You just enjoy your life.
Yeah.
And while you're enjoying your life, let everybody know what you do for a living.
That's right.
That's
well,
it.
because they're buying you, right? They're saying, I trust you, Albert, to do a great job for us, but in order for me to trust you, I have to know you.
Right.
And the more I know you and the better I know you, the more trust I have in you and the more likely I am to use you. But if I never know what you do and you never tell me what you do, then I never know what to ask you about, right?
Exactly.
I have tons of friends that if someone were to ask me, what does so-and-so do for a living? I'd be like, I have no clue. I have no clue. Now, I will tell you that I have friends that if they're in sales of some kind, right, whatever it is, I generally have a pretty good idea because a lot of them are pretty good at, kind of making you aware of that. But I have plenty of them that, I probably have car mechanic friends and, that I have no idea that that's what they do. That
they don't market.
Because they just don't talk about it. They don't tell themselves.
Right.
And I think there's this idea that I don't want to be pushy. You don't have to be, right? You're not asking people at any point to buy or sell. You're just saying, here's what I do. Here's a little bit about it. And I always tell agents that are brand new, look, everybody likes to talk about real estate. Everybody does.
Or at least look at real estate.
Right. So even if you just say, oh, I do real estate, well, what's the market like? Or, I tell people I'm a lender, their first question is, where are interest rates at today?
Right.
I'm like, well, that's a loaded question. I got 6 qualifiers I can give you, but.
A lot of new agents, they think about, promoting themselves quite a bit. And when they're brand new, there's no trust there. Yeah. Because people are like, well, you're brand new. What do you know?
Yeah.
What I tell them is like, don't share you. Share the houses because people want to see houses.
Yes.
And so if you're trying to attract buyers, share houses.
Yeah.
If you're on social media, show all the pretty houses. Well, I don't have access to them. Yes, you do. You got new homes. You got new home builds everywhere. Just go visit. Go show them. Your stories on Instagram, on Facebook. People love seeing houses, the behind the scenes, virtually visiting these new communities.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in a day and age where you can do that daily. And so people think, well, it's about me, then they put it on Facebook. If you want to buy or sell a house, contact me.
Right.
That's when a realtor's kind of hurting, right?
Yeah. That's the first indicator.
Yeah. Some of them, some realtors, that's just their nature. They're going to do it. You find out they're like mega producer. They just always do it.
Right.
But people want to see the pretty houses. They're not necessarily, especially if they don't know you. They don't want to know you.
Yeah.
They want to see the house.
Yeah.
They want to see a guy who has, or a gal that has the key to that house to go look at that house.
Right.
And so be that person by showing them the houses. Once you want to be a listing agent, yes, it's more about you.
Right.
What can you bring to the table that's different from everybody else? You know, earlier I said only, even a monkey can do it. No. You know, are you? Do you know the right pictures to take? Do you know?
Well, so that's the one thing I was going to ask you. So if you were talking to somebody that was thinking about selling their house right now, and that was a consideration for them, what are 3 or 4 things that you say, hey, these I know, there's a ton of, you're going to get 20 offers, you're going to get 15 offers or whatever, but in order to maximize the amount of money, because that's at the end of the day, that's the goal, right? Mm-hmm. We're trying to sell your house for the most amount of money. So in order to maximize that and make sure that you get the most bang for your buck, what is something that a seller right now really needs to consider before they start listing their home?
Staging is the biggest thing, because professional photography is only going to take you so far if the house doesn't look well staged. So staging is going to be your number one thing. And so a lot of agents, especially like where I sell, my medium is $350,000. Mm-hmm. That's my median sell, about $300,000 to $350,000. Okay, so if my houses are at that price range, can I really afford a staging company to come in and do all these things if it's vacant or, So I have a staging consultant. They come in and they tell you, and she is so detailed. I got her, I sold her house, and she used to go to my church actually, and her husband was into classic cars. Yeah. And so hit him with a double whammy. Yeah. And so I went into her house, and she said, she's one of those ladies, I'm sorry, it's a mess. And her house is immaculate. Right. Yeah, and I'm thinking, are you kidding with me? This house is beautiful. Like we can list it today. And she says, oh no, there's so many things I need to do. Okay. So later I hired her, and she goes out to my listings and she just consults them, and she will give them a very detailed email from beginning to end, from outside, front yard to backyard. Right. And she gives them that email, and she's done in about 45 minutes to an hour. And she'll give them, hey, this is the ideal situation. This is what's going to put your house above everybody else. Yeah. And people have commented, how are your listings so nice? How do they look so good? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is listing, is staging. Whether you're doing it yourself or you're getting it virtually done, or it's just a consultation. Right. There's different steps to it to make the house super presentable. Right. And so most of my sellers are willing to do those things. If they're not willing to do those things, then it's a different level. Right. Right. It's a different level. You're maybe not going to get that exact number that you're thinking about, but this market makes us look stupid anyway. So let's list it and see what happens. Well,
but that's what the staging thing I think is important too, is because you're going to get 15 or 20 offers, but the staging piece of it, in my opinion, creates the desire. It's the, can you see yourself in this house, right? That's why they tell you don't put your family photos up and that kind of thing, because you want buyers coming in seeing themselves in that home, not you in that home. Right, right. And if you stage it appropriately, that person that's willing to pay 10 grand over might be willing to pay 15 or 20 because they this is the one. This is the house. Like we've looked for 15 other homes, we've made 15 other offers, but this is the house. Right. And I have to have this one. I've got to have this one, so we got to do whatever we can to get it.
Right. And I had one listing about a year ago that was on the market for a year. Yeah. That's rare. Yeah. You don't see that anymore. No. So what is the number one reason why a house is still on the market? Price, right? Or people say, well, no, it's not the price, it's the condition. Well, yes.
It's always the price.
The price has to match the condition.
That's right.
And so when I looked at this house, I wanted to buy it. Yeah. I liked it. Yeah. When I saw the house, the layout was great. I thought, wow, this is fantastic. Yeah. Why didn't it sell? Well, I looked at the price. Yeah, it was a little bit over. It was quite a bit over. But the expectation had been set to the client. This is what your house is worth. Right. And so they wouldn't take $2,000 or $3,000 any less than that. Yeah. And so, but when I looked at the photos, it was like, okay, some agents, and this is my pet peeve, they take a picture with their cell phone, and that's enough to sell a house. Yeah, right now you may get 2 offers on that house, or 3 offers or 6 offers with your cell phone. Yeah. But what about 20? Right. What about having the best pick of the litter, you know? And so this house, it looked, not only did they take their pictures with a cell phone, it looked like they took it from their iPhone. Right. I mean, from their Apple Watch. Apple Watch. It looked horrible. They were blurry. I mean, there was angles that I'm thinking, what part of the house is that? And so I had the professional come in. I actually had the house cleaned. They were out of town. They lived out of town. They had moved, and their house had been vacant for a year. Yeah. It was so dusty, so dirty. My person came in with two crew of two, and they cleaned the house. I had the professional photographer come in. They took the pictures. I had it virtually staged. I mean, it was on for a few hours. Yeah. It was gone.
Flew off quick.
It was gone. Sold.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you know, these days, you really don't have a whole lot of hard time selling your home. No. It's just a matter of how much you can get for it, and that's really what it boils down to. And I think, you know, I made a video not too long ago just talking about, you know, for sale by owner homes and that kind of thing. I mean, I think the statistic was, it was like 17 or 18 or maybe 14%, you know, you get 14% more when you list it with an agent versus doing it on your own. Yes, you're going to sell your house. Right. And yes, you're going to sell it for, you know, what you may think is a good price, but what you miss is all of those little details that using an agent like you can really drive that price up to where you get the most bang for your dollar. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for.
Right. I think agency is one of the most powerful things, because when it comes down to it, all you're doing is transferring the stress to the agent.
Yes.
And so, and if you're like me, I don't care about the stress. The stress comes.
That's what you do.
These people are calling you. 20 people want this house. 30 people want this house. They act like your best friend, and then as soon as you tell them we chose another offer, they hate you. Yeah. They've already targeted you on social media. They've gone on there and talked about, oh, these people and the market sucks and this and that. It's like all that stress. And then I had one person that they came, this is what I'm talking about, irresponsible. I had my listing, a buyer came, they came with a phenomenal offer, waived the appraisal. It was a owner occupant. Yeah. And so I felt great about that. And they waived the appraisal. They waived the option period. Mm-hmm. And when they got in the house, we didn't know. Apparently, there's a lot of things wrong with it. We didn't know. I mean, they wrote whatever they knew on the seller's disclosure. They were even surprised. But what do you do there? There's no recourse. So they say, well, all these things are wrong with the house. And the email they sent an amendment said, it would be nice if your seller would repair these things. It was a list of things for $5,000 or $6,000. I'm thinking, well, yeah, it would be nice. Yeah. But we're not here to be nice. No. We're not here to be mean either or combative. Yeah. We're just here for a transaction. Yeah. So if you send me a transaction where you waive everything, you waived everything. Yeah. Guess what? You got to buy the house.
Yeah. Or we can sell it to somebody else.
Or we sell it to somebody else. Yeah. And so that's the scary, sad part. But for my seller, that's fantastic. Yeah. They sold. They're buying a new house. Yeah. It's a great situation to be in.
So bottom line is if you can sell your house, or if you're in the market to sell it today, it's the best time.
Sell it, man.
Well, I very much appreciate you, taking a little bit of time out of your day to come hang out and chat with me for a little bit. Not that we don't normally do this from time to time anyway.
No, I love it.
But now we get it on video, so,
Absolutely. Mike, you're bringing a lot of benefit to real estate agents, but also to your client base as well. So I appreciate you and thank you for having me on.